Go ahead and start. All right, welcome to our coaching chat Zoom. I am so excited about what did I do with the book here? We have been in a series. This is part 4 of the series Atomic Habits. If you've not read this book, one, it's an easy read and it's had a powerful impact on me. And hopefully you guys too, as we've just kind of chunked out parts of this book. In this book, it's talking about utilizing habits to help us be even more successful, whether it is in our Juice Plus business or if it's in our everyday life. The more habits we can create in our life, the easier it's going to be to help us be successful. And so he has this thing in the beginning, and it was called the habit loop. And he said, if we can do these 4 things when creating a habit, the more likely the habit will take and we will utilize that habit. And so the first 2 we talked about last week, if we make a habit that we make it obvious and then we make it attractive, that's going to seal that habit in all the more. This week, the last 2 things on this habit loop is we want to make it easy and we want to make it satisfying. So if we look at our Juice Plus world and all that we do as Juice Plus partners, it really gets boiled down to 9 areas that we do in our Juice Plus world. It's prospect building, meaning we're going out and we're connecting with people. It's prospect attracting. So if I know all these people, I've got a large network, how do I now begin to start pulling them into our health and wellness world? Then how do I attract and bring them in as customers? How do I take care of those customers? Those customers are going to refer other customers to us. How do I attract people to join me on this business? Then we do team development. Once I've attracted partners, how do I develop them? Then there's a little bit of pocket of skill that's needed in social media, in event and planning and promoting events. And then lastly, personal development. So all of this kind of makes up what we do as Juice Plus partners. And so as I think about these habits and creating habits, I want to create habits that help me be successful in all 9 of those squares. All right, so today we've talked about law 1, law 2, law 3 is how do I make, if I'm creating habits in one of these areas, how do I make it easy? So if I think about how do I make a habit easy? So let's start talking about what he talks about in the book. So he talks about when we're making a habit easy, he talks about quantity over quality. Now I want you to think about, let's say you've just brought on a new partner onto your team and you start talking about, let's create a memory jogger. Who are the people you want to connect with? And what do you hear back sometimes? I don't know what to say. I don't want to talk to anyone because I don't quite have down what I want to say to them yet. Has anyone experienced that kind of that fear factor that people don't want to say anything because they don't want to say the wrong thing? Well, he talks about what we have to do is make it easy. And he tells the story of this college professor. He had a photography class and he split the class up into 2 categories. One category, he said, okay, you guys are in the quantity group. Your goal is to take as many photographs as you can during this whole semester. That's all I want you to focus on. He made it really easy. So this class is going to be easy. Then he took the other half and he said, your assignment is to come up with 1 perfect picture. That's all. That was all. So he made the assignment easy. What do you think happened? Well, the group that all they had to do was take pictures produced some of the most amazing, perfect photographs. And then the group that just had to produce one good photograph, it was mediocre. And why was that? Did your mama ever tell you practice makes perfect? They weren't focused. They weren't getting hung up on the perfect picture. Instead, they were snapping pictures. And what happened? Over time, they got really good. And that's the same thing. What we need to really instill into ourselves and into our team is the more you practice just talking to people, share your heart about this amazing product, you're going to get good. You're getting 10,000 hours in the book. I forget the name of the book now. It'll come to me in a minute. But he said, anytime anyone invests 10,000 hours into anything, they're going to become a professional. So make it easy. Just make it easy. The next habit he talked about when creating this habit is automate your habits. Use your unconscious mind. It's amazing what our unconscious mind can do, but yet we don't even take advantage of it. And when I was thinking about utilizing and engaging this unconscious mind, I use Team Z as a way to track my connections. In the box, I look every day, it says add one new person to your list. So every day I'm like, oh, I got to add another person to my memory jogger list. What is that doing? That's building my network. But because I don't even have to think about it, I just see that reminder on that screen, and what does it do? Immediately I go and think of who is someone new that I just recently met that I can add to my memory jogger. So automate these habits so that your mind's not cluttered with them. How can you tap into the unconscious mind and automate things? And that, when I think about building my memory jogger, that's that first box there, prospect building. So many times I'm talking to a brand new partner and they're like, I don't have anyone to talk to. I've talked to everyone. No, I once saw it said that if you have 250 friends on Facebook, you have a connection to over 600 people. So no one should run low when it comes to prospects. It's a matter of reminding ourselves about where those people are. The next law then is the law of least efforts. And in his book, he talks about, what we want to do is create, if we have a habit that takes no effort to do, we're going to do it. If it takes a lot of effort, we're probably not going to do it. And he shows a map of the world and the continents. And he tells a story of when agriculture was beginning to spread. It was the continent that was wide, goes from Europe to Asia, that agriculture spread like 4 times faster than from North America to South America. Why do you think that would be the case? Well, I was like, that's fascinating. Well, the reason is if you're going, from Europe over in that direction, it's just, you're not changing the climate. When you're going north to south, you're changing the climate, so it made it more difficult for the plants to grow. And when I read that, I thought, man, that's a great visual in my mind. How do we apply that to our business? And a story came to my mind was Harriet Salzer, who, if anybody in the Juice Plus world in Atlanta, everybody is under Harriet Salzer. Harriet is the sweetest. She's probably in her mid-70s, vivacious, beautiful, kind. I mean, you talk about being attracted to someone. But she tells a story as a single mom, as a school teacher. She had to build her Juice Plus business because her income from being a school teacher wasn't enough to raise 3 kids. And what did she do? She said, this was back in the day it was cassette tapes. And I remember her talking about saying she'd get in the car to go to work. She'd put 3 cassette tapes on the seat beside her. And before she got home, before she pulled in that driveway, if she looked over, if she hadn't given away one of those cassette tapes, by Dr. Du Bois was probably all we had then, talking about the whole truth in 15 minutes. Sharon Juice Plus, she said, I'd look over and say, nope, I got one more tape. And she'd back out of her driveway and she'd go talk to someone. What was that? It was the law of least effort. It took no effort to throw those tapes in her seat and to look over and know she hadn't done what she'd committed to herself to do. That lady makes millions of dollars in Juice Plus every year. And if you met her, she's sweet, she's kind. She would never be someone that you would say, oh my gosh, she's this big salesperson. What was it? It was the consistency. She created a habit that forced her to be consistent to share Juice Plus. The last thing under this law of making your habits easy, the 2-minute rule. And he talked about the gateway habit. And what he said was, let's say you want to exercise. So what would be a gateway habit to running every morning when you get up? He said, put your shoes right there. You got to stumble over your shoes when you get out of bed. So he said, if you're making gateway habit to a bigger habit of running, the gateway habit was putting those shoes at the right as you get out of bed. A habit that's going to take less than 2 minutes. And when I thought about that, I do this gateway habit, and you're going to laugh when I tell you, but it works every time. You ever lay in bed and you think, ooh, I got to do XYZ tomorrow. I don't want to get up, get a pencil, paper. I don't even want to lean over and write on a piece of paper because it's going to wake me up. Y'all, I take a pillow and throw it in the middle of the room. And I'm telling you, I get up the next morning, I look at that pillow. Ooh, okay, this is what I got to go do. What is it? What does that take me? 2 seconds to do that? It's a gateway habit that has taught me how, so what are those gateway habits? And I think about producing a hot hands list. Stacy Whitmere is the one that got me going on this. Take my memory jogger list of all the people I want to connect with, write 10 names from my memory jogger list. I can do that in 2 minutes. And what have I just done? I've created a habit that wherever I am, if I've got 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I know who I can call. That's an make it easy habit. So when I go back to these areas within our business, what are you struggling with in your business? In one of these 9 areas, create a habit to help you over that hurdle. All right. The next law is the law of make it satisfying. So he talked about making something an enjoyable experience. And he tells the story of Karachi, Pakistan. 9 million people live in this city. Imagine the challenges back in the 1990s when it came to sanitary issues that was causing all kinds of diseases. And they came down to if they could just get people to wash their hands properly and frequently, it would eliminate so much of the sickness. And so Procter & Gamble created, and y'all, I love this soap. They created Safeguard. Can anybody through memory come back with the smell of Safeguard in their memory? There is something about the smell of Safeguard that I absolutely love. Procter & Gamble created Safeguard soap, distributed it throughout Karachi, and the numbers dropped drastically. And why was that? It was a satisfying experience. I can smell that in my mind right now. It sudsed up when you washed your hands. The smell was satisfying. And it was simply that one act made such a difference. So think about what is a habit you can incorporate that is satisfying, that's going to help you in your business. And when I was reading this story and kind of bringing it back, I think of my husband. When COVID hit, he had to come home from his corporate office and establish an office in our home. And suddenly, every day, I started seeing these gigantic boxes showing up on our porch, like huge box after box after box after box. I said, what in the world are you doing? He said, I've got $1,000 budget to create an office at home that is enjoyable for me to work from. So he was buying, a light to put on to do Zoom calls. He bought a new chair. He bought this little thing to put his feet on. He bought files. He bought flip charts. I sometimes just go up in his office and I love all these gadgets you have. He's got a thing that holds his computer up so it tilts the right way. What did he do? He made his environment an enjoyable experience. Do you need to change your office at home to make it an enjoyable experience? What's another? Make a satisfying environment. The next thing he talked about was an immediate return. So basically, to get any substantial return, it takes what? Time. You got to invest your money for a good long period of time to get a lot of money. You've got to invest your time into a job or into a business over a long period of time. What? To earn the income. Everything worth getting takes time. But unfortunately, and he talks about this long-term return versus immediate return. But to keep us engaged, it has to be an immediate return to get our long-term return that we truly want, that is substantial. So how do we create habits that will create an immediate return to help us get to that rewarding long term? So what about tracking your activity? Does that kind of push your buttons? So for many years, what I did was say, here's how many connections I'm going to make a week in my Juice Plus business. And if I get them all done by Thursday, I'm taking Friday off and I'm going to celebrate and do something fun. That was my immediate return. Or maybe, Karen, I've got you on this board because you came to my mind. Karen had, I'm going to tell your story. Karen had, I think I've heard it from Brenda. Karen saved all her Juice Plus money in the beginning. She's in a brand new house, and that was her furniture budget. And then she went hog wild because I hear your house is absolutely gorgeous, Karen. She watched that furniture fund grow. And I kind of want to hear from you, Karen, because I have a feeling that motivated you. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. Working hard was fun, and not spending it was what's the word? My brain disciplined me. Yeah, disciplined me. And then the spending of it was amazing. And I didn't spend all of it. So it's still growing. I still continue to keep it for my next goal.
But that immediate watching that account grow had to have some satisfaction immediately before the big satisfaction came.
Absolutely. Well, every month it was like, wow, it's growing, and it was a blast. I shared that with Brenda, and she probably got sick of hearing it, but it was just so much fun to report back to her. Look at what I did.
But I love that idea. So maybe it's simply setting aside your Juice Plus check and letting it grow towards something that is long-term, very inspiring and meaningful. We've also done a lot of the vision boards where we think about why am I doing this business? Is it I want to build a swimming pool for my kids. I want to go on a mission trip with my kids. I want to build a house. I want to pay off debt. What is it? But somehow we have to have an immediate habit or reminder about where we're going in this business. So I love that whole thing about creating habits that cause immediate return. The next thing he talked about was this guy. It was called the paperclip strategy, where he went in. He had 2 jars on his desk. One jar had 120 paper clips. The other one had none. He made 120 calls a day. That was his goal. Connecting with people. And every time he made a call, he moved the paper clip over. And what was it? That was another visual strategy of he was watching the progress being made. And it was a visual reward, immediate satisfaction. He was making progress. I do this on my calendar every day. I put on my calendar how many connections I made a day. I know how many I want to make. I want to make 15 connections a day. And so I track that. And I do it with a blue. So I know, I look at all the blue banners on all my days, and I can tell how many days I hit the mark. How about Ben Franklin had a notebook he carried around with him. And he wanted to build his relationships, and he wrote every time he talked to someone, he wrote in his notebook the connections he made and what he learned from that connection. What was it? He was making progress. I don't know if Miracle's on here because I can only see 4 people, but Miracle and her mom have a notebook. And the last I talked, they had over 300 names in that notebook of people that they have connected with about Juice Plus, their story and their contact information. I love that. And I tell you what, Miracle, hands down, over anyone I know, Miracle has connected with more cold calling and more than I've ever seen. And so she amazes me. So she's implemented this paper clip strategy by making progress and seeing that notebook grow. I also think of Jerry Steinfeld, one of my favorite shows on TV. Why he's become such a good comedian, he developed this thing. If you read the consistency chain, he's in that book. And then he's in this book again about consistently every day. He wrote a new joke every single day, and he wouldn't break the chain. And most of you guys were part of our consistency chain, where every day for 2 months, we connected with at least one new person a day. So making progress, somehow, some way, creating habits that will make us successful. And then the last thing, and then I'm going to shut up. He at the end of each of these chapters, he uses the inverse of whatever law he's talking about. So if the law is making it satisfying, he said, maybe sometimes we have to make it unsatisfying so it's uncomfortable and forces us to do the right thing. And one of the things that he talked about is creating a habit of having an accountability partner. And it's quite uncomfortable to have to fess up to somebody. I didn't make the connections I said I was going to make. I didn't reach out to this person. I didn't develop myself in this area. Having to admit we didn't do what we said we would do. And so maybe if the positive doesn't motivate us, maybe it's a little ouch sometimes have to motivate us. And I'll tell you, I sometimes am more motivated by this. And years ago, we haven't been in person. We get ribbons for hitting certain levels and doing certain things at conference. More so than having a ribbon on my lanyard, I couldn't stand the fact of not having a ribbon on my lanyard. That unsatisfying feeling was like, that probably motivated me more than anything. So maybe we need to flip this around. We're all different. So maybe we need to flip it around. Another thing, he talked about this entrepreneur, his name from Colorado, his name was Thomas Frank. And he wanted to get up early to really plan and in his day out to be successful. And his alarm went off at 5:55 that told him to get up. But then he had another alarm at 6:15 that said, so the 5:55 said, get up, it's a great day, plan your day, be proactive, all these positive things. But then he had another alarm that went off at 6:15 that said, get up, you lazy guy, get out of the bed. So he used kind of the inverse of that positive. So whatever it takes, we want to make sure that we create these habits that are easy and we create habits that are satisfying. These are the things, these habits, creating these habits are what's going to propel us forward in this business. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Let's open up and let me just ask somebody who's been on here let me hear some habits that you've been able to either in the past created or since we've been doing this series began to create in one of those 9 areas of our business. Anybody have a habit that they've started? Let's do like popcorn answers, just quick answers, because I want to hear from as many of you as I can. What's a habit you've created that's helped you in this business?
Siri
Here.
reminders. Siri reminders. Siri.
Siri reminders. I love that. Okay, so you hit Siri's and say, Siri, remind me, give me an example.
Am I muted? No. I'll say in 15 minutes, remind me to write down so-and-so's name as a new prospect, and then I'll put them on my list. Or remind me to call so-and-so because her order's shipping out tomorrow, that type of thing.
I love it. All right, Siri reminders. Who else? Give me a good habit. So
I love the alarm clock that you taught. I mean, the alarms. I've been doing that like crazy.
Works.
And it, even before I even read it, as soon as it goes off, I'm like, is it already that time?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to do that. It's really powerful.
So Brenda talks about, and I got to give credit where credit is due. Letty put me onto this. I have reoccurring alarms on my phone at 11 and 2, 11 o'clock, and the banner goes across and says, make your prospect calls. So I know I've got 5 prospects to make today. At 2, a banner will go across that says, make your customer calls. I'll make 5 customer calls. So I agree that helps me, because what it does is it says, Elaine, just stop everything you're doing, take an hour, invest an hour in your prospects, and invest an hour in your customers. And I have to consciously say, I'm not going to do it. And that reminds me I didn't do what I told myself I was going to do. All right, another reminder or another habit you begin incorporating.
Just checking the virtual office every day and making sure that your customers are shipping, that kind of stuff.
Okay, and how do you do? What is the habit that causes you? What gets you in that habit, Erin?
I just do it like in the like on Monday mornings, especially like right after this call. This is my like go time for doing that, or just and throughout the day when I'm working. But just making sure that like, okay, right now this is my time that I'm checking all my customers. I'm sending them out quick texts or calls.
You just alluded to another one of the habits, that gateway habit. So this call is your gateway habit to set your week up for the right after this. So
right.
So back to that gateway habit, being on this call, maybe what's a gateway to being on this call? Getting that text. Maybe force yourself to say, hey, you're going to get an automatic text from me or Brenda reminding you about this call. Maybe you respond. Maybe your gateway habits, I'll be there. Or, how about this? Here's a gateway habit. You get a message from us. What about you taking 2 minutes? This is under a 2-minute habit, and saying, I'm going to invite 5 of my team. They're going to get a personal text from me. Hey, I hope you're on the coaching chat today. How can we create? The more habits we can create, the more we've automated our business. The more we've automated our business, the more time we freed ourselves up to build an even bigger business. Give me another habit. These are good. Sandy.
When I walk, I talk, and I try to make one new connection every time I'm walking. If it's not a new person, I try to expand the relationship, get to know them. They get to know me a little bit better. My husband says I talk too much, but I enjoy talking and walking.
Talking and walking. That's a great habit and a great reminder. I do my development. Like I listen to podcasts when I walk. Either one, go back, think those nine squares. What works for you? And we all don't have to have the same habit, but creating those habits, the more the better. Someone else just was raising. Allison.
I was just going to say, this isn't a daily or even a monthly habit, but I try to take advantage of low-hanging fruit. So when you send out the newsletter, like the last newsletter you sent, which was about the new Juice Plus research done on gut health, it was right before my son's wedding and just a hectic time when I'd actually put Juice Plus aside. But I'm like, there's no reason at all why I cannot take this and immediately forward it. It just takes, a few seconds to erase the FWD, erase your stuff at the bottom, put my information in and send it to 10 people, go to the next 10, the next 10, the next 10. And I just think, I just appreciate you and Brenda who always share your stuff with us, but I at least want to tell my partners who say, well, I'm so busy. None of us are too busy to forward something that y'all have literally just given to us to share. And it just puts Juice Plus information in front of our customers and prospects.
I think that's an awesome habit and idea. And here's what I kind of go back to too, even if they don't even read it, what have you just done? In a second, a nanosecond, that's even such a word, you have, I'm going to stop the recording here.